This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts. Welcome, everybody, to the Skeptical Skeptics Podcast. I'm your host, RJ Metzger.
And I'm Rachel Metzger.
And this is episode 39. So we did our second mini story on Grace Sherwood, which actually got picked up by a Virginia magazine or whatever. So they put it out there and said, hey, listen to this. So that was kind of cool. I have no shout outs for the show, although I will say, well, no, that's a lie. Shout out to the Fantasy Football League. Good draft. Yeah. So I think Alex won the draft, but I'm not sure if that's really the ratings. I just forgot. But yeah, it was a good draft. Very minimal trash talking. So that we got to pick that up. But yes, so the league is alive, at least. We'll see how that goes. What else happened for the show, babe? Oh, we have our new logo is out. It is Rachel's catchphrase, which is...
Oh, I don't like that.
Which apparently she says a lot whenever I say creepy things, which actually today she might say it quite a bit. Hopefully.
I didn't even know I say it very often.
It's true. Thanks to Kelly and Britt. So we put that out there. It's on our social media. I'll pin it at some point. And for our next drawing, which we're still gearing up to do, the winner will get one of those stickers, one of our standard stickers, and maybe a shirt or something this time. Or maybe a mystery box, which is something we talked about. So we talked about maybe doing for our next drawing winner, just a mystery box of probably a fictional crime or something, or maybe even a real cryptid. But I don't want to do a real crime because then that seems kind of disrespectful, right? But anyway, so mystery box winner would have a little fake thing to solve, and then depending on what they came up with, the answer they came up with, we'll record a short episode for them or with them. I thought that might be cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but anyway, let me know if you're interested in that on social media. Anybody who has previously reached out to us, let us know if you're interested in doing that as a winner. If nobody's interested in it, we won't do it. But if people are pretty interested in that, then obviously the winner could get it. Of course, if you win, we'll just talk to you about it. Hey, are you even interested in this, or would you rather just have a shirt? But if anybody's interested and they're in the top 3, maybe we'll do that. What else? Oh, yeah. So new stickers. We'll post a picture of those if you want one of those. And that's about it. Oh, we had a 1-star review. Forgot to mention that. So it's only our second, and it's the first one with text. So I did want to address it because 1, it's fun, but 2, actually, it was kind of an interesting claim. So they think that we ripped off. I posted about this on social media, but they think we ripped off the show from This Paranormal Life, which I'd actually never heard of. But after looking at it, I kind of get where they're coming from because the logo is fairly similar. Theirs is and look them up. They're actually a really good show because I listened to them just now, but. Their logo is a triangle with a ghost and Bigfoot and I think a UFO in their little white logo, and theirs is black, which is interesting. Our logos other than that don't look at all similar though, and their show structure is totally different than ours, which I thought was funny because there's way more shows, even the shows we cite we're actually more similar to Mysterious Universe and That's Why We Drink. Right. We've both said is kind of the inspiration for the show, and they do where one person has a story and the other person reacts and they flip, but this podcast doesn't even do that. So this person was oh, you totally ripped off their show, but actually we ripped off other people's shows that we openly acknowledge. And then the last point to that was also how else are we going to structure a 2-person show? There's just... Yeah, right. That's not
the way lots of people do it, yeah.
Right. But anyway, so I thought it was funny. But anyway, so this person's not going to hear this because they clearly hate us. But in case you do, just know, I had no idea who those people were. Although I will plug them right now. This Paranormal Life, they won a bunch of awards, been around for a couple years, and they're very funny. So they're more comedic based than we are. And they're definitely I think that I only listened to one episode and they definitely came off as skeptics, but I think that they also have said that certain things might be paranormal. So they're kind of in the middle like us, but more comedy based. So check them out. I like the parallels. So if you like us, you'll probably like them. Although we're not actually that similar. In the news this week, we've got, man, I've been talking the whole time because you don't look at the news. Okay, so anyway.
Sometimes I look at the news. Stop painting me to be that guy.
I'm just saying. You do?
This time, yeah, I have.
Okay.
So, meh.
Anyway, so this week in the news, there is a a scientific journal article coming out where this guy actually looked at Ouija boards or whatever you want to call them, and how they may actually be legit was kind of what he was getting at. And so what he did was he set up a camera and software to track the planchette. That way the human, like they could, like the people could not look at the planchette, or they could, not interact with it normally, because this camera was actually scientifically like tracking all the data points for them. And what he found out was a couple things. So one, he was testing the idea that obviously like the human moves the planchette, right?
Yeah.
And he found out that like physically the person does cause the movement on the Ouija board, okay, on the planchette, which makes sense. But if you go back to like old school Ouija board like theory, they say that like the human interaction is necessary. Like the planchette is not moving it.
Right, they move it through you. Yeah.
Right? Like that's the whole point of the Ouija board. So that's not really groundbreaking. Although some stuff he did find that was like legitimately interesting was in a couple sessions, they like the characters that it was like pointing out weren't just random. They started like coming up with phrases and like words, and did so at a very rapid rate, sometimes as fast as one character per second. And what they thought would happen is like what would be random at first, like random letters and stuff. Once something started, like a word began, they thought that like because of human nature, like they would want to complete the word, right?
Yeah.
And the randomness would end. But what they really found was that actually wasn't the case. Like people, and of course they had people chosen to do the Ouija board experience, so they weren't trying to manipulate the board.
Yeah.
But what they found was like even when something would start, they would actually continue the random stuff. So it seemed like the random phrases or the phrases that came out that weren't random, weren't human manipulated, in other words. They found a couple other things. So he did like 50 plus sessions for this paper. And in one of the sessions, they didn't even recognize it at first, but the people did like a perfect heart and they didn't even know it.
Oh, wow.
But it showed up in the stats. So anyway, that's pretty cool. The journal article is in the Journal of Scientific Exploration, volume 33, issue 2. And it is called A Camera-Based Tracking System for Ouija Research by Eckhard Cruz. So you can go ahead and read all that if you'd like. Very interesting. So that's all I've got this week, I think. Oh, we have a new puppy.
Her name is Winnie.
Winnie. Winifred Patrice Metzger.
Yep.
Is her name. She's a Winnebago, Win puppy.
Winston Churchill.
Winston, Winnie, Winnie the Bish. All sorts of things so far.
Yep. She's cute.
She's very cute.
We'll post a picture of her.
We will. She's super precious and she gets along with
She's on my lap right now. So if you hear puppy noises, that's what's happening.
It's the Winnie. Well, Larry's on your lap too, but that's only if you hear old man voice noises.
That's old man gross noises or being smelly.
Yes, that's Larry. So anyway, this week, what are you talking about, Rach?
I am talking about the Bunyip.
I like it.
Me too.
I'm very interested to find out what that is.
I'm
sure I've heard of it, but
I don't know. I never had. I mean, I'm not like a cryptid person.
I can't remember it off the top of my head, so we'll see. If Josh Gates hasn't chased it, I probably don't know it.
I don't think he has, but I could be wrong.
All right. And I'm going to be talking about the Order of the Solar Temple, which I think I'd heard in passing, but I really didn't know much about them. You could probably guess why I'm going to talk about them because, actually, I'll tell you why I'm going to talk about them. We've never done a cult before, and it's not like in our normal rotation, but I thought it would be interesting because some of these cults, one, are creepy, and Rachel, likes to do the true crime episodes I'm not super interested in. But two, like some of them legitimately do believe like in the supernatural elements that cause them to do these crazy things, obviously, or else they wouldn't do all of them. So that's why I think it's actually worth talking about for our subject matter. So if you like the cult thing, let us know. If you don't, let us know as well, because again, it's a departure. So trying something different. But anyway, so the Order of the Solar Temple was formed in Geneva in 1984 by Joseph de Mombro and Luc Jarret. Okay. So they actually had two separate cults, and then formed one cult. So de Mombro's foundation at the time was the Golden Way, which he established in 1978, or the Golden Way, Foundation Golden Way, excuse me. And it was built on ideas that were pilfered from the Knights Templar, right? Okay. Which I'll talk a little bit about here in a second. But de Mombro himself actually began practicing occultism in the 1950s. He was born in 1924, so in his 30s, he started this. And 30 years prior to starting the Order of the Solar Temple, he became a member of the ancient and mystical order Rosicrucians, okay, or the Rosicrucians, if you've ever heard of them.
Nope.
Yeah, me neither. But some people have, so apparently they were a big deal. Now, Jarret, on the other hand, he actually was a founder of the Arch, which was his thing, and it was based on New Age concepts. He also was a member of de Mombro's Foundation Golden Way, and that's how they met. But Jarret was actually known for being a former physician, which we'll talk about why that was used. Now, like I said, they met when Jarret was in the Foundation Golden Way, which was de Mombro's foundation. Mm-hmm. But the Solar Temple itself claims that they trace their history back to the revival of the Knights Templar, which were originally a military religious order founded in the 12th century, which was suppressed by papal command in 1312. So the thing about the Knights Templar, which of course you can remember, they're talked about a lot, mostly from... what's that? The Da Vinci Code? Mm-hmm. Did you ever see the movie or read the book?
Nope.
Neither?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay, so it's a super overrated book, but the movie's pretty good because it's Tom Hanks.
That's what I've heard.
But anyway, so, okay, well, we'll fix that at some point. I didn't know that. So in there, the Knights Templar were in that book, they're chasing the... the Holy Grail, thank you, along with Monty Python, and the Monty Python dudes, and so the Knights Templar were an old group, and they were real, so that's one thing, they were real.
Hold on, am I crazy, or is the Knights Templar the same thing that's Assassin's Creed?
No, yeah, same. Okay, so the reason why they're in so much of this lore, and it goes back to Illuminati stuff too. So a lot of secret cults and all this, even Masonic symbols and stuff go back to the Knights Templar.
Yeah.
And Da Vinci Code specifically wound those two together, the Templars and the Masons. But one of the reasons that they're such a big deal is because they were not mercenary, but during the Crusades, they were just involved in, a lot of hunting of, not only high profile targets and stuff like that, but also relics and golds and riches.
Okay.
So one of their main things was it's at least claimed that they had this huge cache of riches that they didn't necessarily report out to the church. And so then they were able to to be on their own and have their own function due to this wealth, right? Now that goes way deep. We'll probably do a special on the Knights Templar. They're between them and the Masons, there's just a ton of history, legit history. But a lot of the cult stuff that comes from it is because they were also have said, and this is where Da Vinci Code comes in. They were said to have found the Holy Grail, which was Jesus's wife and child, right?
Right.
And so then that's where that whole fiction comes in. And that's what brought it to the mainstream eye. But obviously this was 30 years ago. And so the Knights Templar were still a big deal. And so actually I talk about a little bit about that. But anyway, so the Solar Temple, again, traced its history to the revival of the Knights Templar, which were in the years after the French Revolution. In 1805, Bernard Raymond Fabre Palapret claimed to be the head of the Knights Templar, and he attempted to recreate the order. His group that original group from 1805 split into many different factions, some of which developed a belief in the imminent end of the world, which comes back in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But before founding the Solar Temple with Demambro, Jarrett belonged to a descendant of one of these factions, the Renewed Order of the Temple. Okay, and again, Demambro also, was a part of the Order of the Rosicrucius. Okay, so they had a lot of ties to this. So then they said, well, we're the Order of the Solar Temple and we're also Knights Templar. Okay.
Right.
So Demambro was kind of the brains of the operation. He knew to grow his Foundation Golden Way organization or whatever, that he would need somebody more charismatic than himself to represent the cult.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where Jarrett kind of came in. And again, they both formed the Order of the Solar Temple, but they actually, again, met in his first organization, right? But Jarrett came in because he was a former physician. He gave presentations on a lecture circuit around like Switzerland, which discussed like seemingly innocuous subjects like love and biology, and used his medical degree to give him credibility. But the speeches would eventually steer more towards like apocalyptic messages. And
normal cult stuff, right?
And talking about the self-destruction of the earth through environmental disasters. And like each lecture, of course, would conclude with him and Demambro talking about their solutions for how these people should survive. Okay. So that's kind of how he used Jarrett. By the way, getting back to citing our sources, I used Gizmodo, Ranker, Britannica, like the encyclopedia site, Swiss Info, and yeah, that's it. So that's what I used. Some were more useful than others, but that's what I used. But anyway, so every single time, every freaking 4 seconds. But they ended up with followers in Switzerland, France, and Canada by the end of a very short period of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the members of the Order of the Solar Temple had to pay to move up in the organization, which was conveniently benefiting the cult's leaders, right? So there were initiation fees, gifts were required to be given to the leaders, and there was like mandatory tuition.
Mm-hmm.
The cult's secrets, so like in order like to move up, the incentive was you would get more of the cult's secrets and a promised salvation upon the return of the second coming of Christ, which was called the Solar God King. Okay, so that was part of their thing, like tied to the end of the world was the second coming, which of course, like, pulls from Christian belief.
Yeah.
Now, a few of the regular members actually left the cult once they realized their leaders, both Jarrett and Demambro, were leading super lavish lifestyles from the income that they were getting from the church. Like people ended up leaving, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, over the course of 6 years, the Order of the Solar Temple gained over 400 members and ended up delineating itself into a 3-part structure. But a lot of these members were actually middle and upper class because of the way that they were presenting their stuff, which is through academic like presentations. So they were getting fairly rich members. But they had a 3-part structure. The lowest part was the Amanta Club, which was designed for members who just spread the cult's message to new people. They were like quote unquote ambassadors and gave lectures all around the world and proselytized the group's doctrine.
Wow.
The next level of the cult was the Arcadia Club, which they got more of the cult secrets and were promised a reward of coming closer to a quote higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to join this group, you had to be hand selected by an elder to get there.
Of course you did.
Yep. And then the highest circle of the cult was called the International Knighthood Organization. Reaching this level involved secret initiation rituals, and its members had access to publications that others did not. But of course, every cult needs an inner circle, right? This for them was called the synarchy of the temple, and it consisted of the cult's largest donors and its leaders, all of whom refer to themselves as the Elder Brothers of the Rosy Cross, which again pulls from the Rosicrucians and their terminology.
And they were all having sex?
Oh, we're getting there.
Of course you are. Yeah. That's what I'm waiting for.
So not all.
The creepy, weird stuff.
Yep. So the elders all led lodges, which is cult speak for a church, which had their own altars, robes, and symbolic instruments. They stashed away the majority of the funds collected from all the fees and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Jarrett himself actually claimed a bunch of different things in front of the elite members of the cult, like that in a previous life he was a member of the Knights Templar, of course.
Right.
He also told them, and this is interesting, that he was the third reincarnation of Jesus Christ prior to the second coming.
Mm-hmm.
And he used the authority, quote unquote, that this gave him to choose female members of the cult to have sexual activities with before ceremonies.
Yep.
Stating that they gave him powers, spiritual power to do what he needed to do.
Yep.
Yep.
Of course they did. Because that's how sex works.
Yeah. So DeMambro was in charge of the cult's rituals and ceremonies. He led prayers and guided members through meditation sessions. In order to emphasize his own importance in the cult, and a holy member, he said that he was actually married with gods through theogamy, and his son was an immaculately born. That his son was conceived through theogamy, and that his daughter was immaculately born like Jesus. Yeah. So
wait, was he saying his daughter was the next Jesus?
Nope, just that she was immaculately born. Like that he is a god because he's married to a god, and his son is thus the son of a god, but his daughter was immaculately born from the goddess. I don't know.
Alrighty.
He's crazy. Anyway, well, he was crazy. We're going to get there.
All right.
Among the cult's many beliefs, one of them that was integral to their whole like teachings and everything was that the world would end via a worldwide catastrophe in the mid-90s.
Yep.
Okay. Obviously that wasn't happening. So yeah, the group's goals were initially based in like survivalist behavior and doomsday prep. So they actually the Canadian members actually started an organic farm that's still in operation today.
Oh.
They also like stockpile food and ammo and weapons and stuff to prepare for these disasters that would happen. Which they, by the way, said would mostly be done by volcanoes, which is interesting because our biggest threat to extinction
is volcanoes, isn't it?
It's a super volcano, yeah under Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still the biggest, but it's a huge threat.
Yeah, there's actually a book about that. It's a YA series that is about that volcano going off and the world after.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. But anyway, so you know, I don't even say it in my normal life. I'll only say it here.
Now I'm gonna have to pay attention because I don't know.
Anyway, so they eventually switched their message around when they realized the world, just happened to not be ending by a pure guess by them.
Of course.
And they emphasized that life on Earth was but an illusion, like our last week's episode.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, so tie in. But elders would tell members that their only hope laid in shedding their earthly bodies in order to be reborn on an unnamed planet that was orbiting this dog star, Sirius.
Their only hope was dying?
Yes, in order to get out of the simulation. And then they would be reborn on a planet orbiting these pups' little home star.
And be like, then they'd be real.
Yeah. And they'd probably be gods or something. But anyway, so, oh man, that's getting brutal. DeMambro recruited 12 of his closest and highest ranks followers, and they recreated their version of the Last Supper. The biblical final meal, obviously, that Jesus and his apostles had. But in their version, DeMambro was Jesus, and he led his, quote, apostles through the dinner, and the inner circle members were aware of what was to come from this final supper. Okay.
No.
So what do you think they did? Do you have any guess?
I feel like they probably died because saying the whole, they have to shed this skin.
Earthly body. Yeah.
Right.
So on September 30th.
And it was the Last Supper.
Yep. So on September 30th, 1994, 3 members of the cult were found stabbed to death in Montreal, Quebec. One of the victims was a 3-month-old child who was, I know, and this is rough, stabbed repeatedly by wooden stakes alongside his parents, Antonio and Nikki Detroit. Okay. They were killed by 2 other members of the Order of the Solar Temple on the orders of DeMambro. Outwardly, DeMambro told members that the Detroit's new child was Antichrist, which is why he was stabbed by the wooden stakes.
Oh.
Yeah. And But privately, his anger was likely due to the fact that the Detroits named their child the same name of DeMambro's, quote, godlike son, Emmanuel.
Because that's a reason to kill a baby.
Right. And then reports that Antonio, the father, had recently admitted to other cult members that he'd helped install mechanisms in one of the lodges, which were used to trick members into thinking they were seeing miraculous things, such as like a hologram type of like a projector to water mist and stuff. He hooked a few of those up and eventually talked about it. And so that's why they killed them. But anyway, days later, so again, that was on September 30th of 94. On October 4th and 5th in 94, two solar temple buildings in Switzerland went up in flames. So as biography.com says, quote, the next morning investigators were baffled by much of what they discovered at the site, which were 48 people dead. Some may have committed suicide while others were most likely killed. Some had been injected with tranquilizers or had plastic bags over their heads while others were shot. DeMambro and his wife and children and Jarrett were among those killed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Inner Circle members appeared to have used poison to die, while other members had bags over their heads and had been shot in the head, seemingly forcibly. They wore white ceremonial robes and were arranged in a circle with feet together facing a temple.
Wait, so do they think that the Inner Circle members killed everyone else?
And then killed themselves? Correct. Okay. So, oddly enough, and this is where this group kind of delineates from others, that wasn't the end of it. So even though the leaders were dead, in a year later, in December of 1995, so over a year later, a chalet in the Swiss Alps was found burned with 16 bodies inside, most of which had been killed prior to the fire. And in 1997, 5 more members perished in a Quebec house, which, counting the Detroit family, and then all these suicides, their death toll stands at 74.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
That's insane.
Yep. Among the casualties were 3 children, and in every instance, voluntary participation was questionable. One of the most notable deaths was DeMambro's son, Ellie. He started to question the family organization as he became older. When news came out that visions presented to the members were actually holograms and special effects faked by his dad, DeMambro, he started to get vocal about the suspicion that, things weren't the way they seemed.
Yeah.
Several people in the cult quit in response to his own vocalizations, and Ellie walked away, which was, of course, a huge blow to DeMambro's credibility. And the transition to the mass suicide doctrine followed quickly after. So he was probably losing grasp on the organization.
Yeah.
And Ellie's body was actually among those found in the mass suicide. So his defection either wasn't true or he was killed as, part of his defection. So that's the order of the freaking Solar Temple. And the weirdest part is they still have members. So, yeah. There are still people who are part of this. It's actually recognized in several places as a real religion. And they still are doing whatever it is they do. Even though the founding members are dead. And it's been, 30 years since the prophecy never fulfilled.
So RJ knows this because we've talked extensively about it. But for those of you who do not know me personally, there is nothing I find more interesting and awesome, not awesome, that's not the right word because it's not awesome most of the time, interesting, than human beings who can control other people, they are so good at manipulating people and at reading people that they can find these people who so badly need a feeling of belonging and need someone to follow that they'll follow a complete crazy person. And they almost always do it the right way, like the whole academic things, making it seem really real and smart and whatever. So cults for me are pretty high up there in fascination. Yes.
Yeah.
But what I always wonder is the mix of intelligence and charisma and want obviously for money and things and people to follow you on mixed with the crazy, because this man would not kill himself if he wasn't crazy.
So yeah, that's always the mix that I find interesting is, well, how much do they actually believe in it, right? So that's actually what I went into the cult subject looking for was, okay, who of these folks actually like truly believe in what they're talking about? And yeah, committing suicide is a good show of faith, right?
Well, because like him killing the other guy,
the Detroits, that makes sense.
Yes, I mean it's terrible, but it was very much for his own welfare,
right?
But yeah, the killing yourself and your wife and your children.
Yeah, so the killing of yourself, like, it's pretty insane. Although for him, I do kind of see it as like he was really old. He was like pushing 80 at that point, so it may have just been his kind of like last hurrah. Yeah. Also, I just realized I may have been saying Jaret's name wrong this whole time. I think he may have been French, so it might be Jaret or Jaret. But anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, because like we watched the documentary on Netflix called Holy Hell, which I highly recommend.
Highly. If
you enjoy it. Obviously, if you do not like cults, if you think they're creepy and weird, don't watch it. But if you are super interested like I am, watch it.
Because you think they're creepy and weird?
Yes, I do too. But like, there's some people that like stay away from that stuff. Right. When I fully embrace it. But that guy was crazy, but he is one of those that you look at that it's more like he did this for his own gain in so many ways, right? Definitely. Like 99% of his motive was for his own gain, whether that was fame, whether that was money, whether that was sex and power, whatever, that's what it was for. So I always am interested in the ones where it's like, there's a chance they actually like believed in this. Like there's a chance that they really thought maybe he really like put that poison in his veins, believing I will be reborn
right
on this
and
planet.
Even if not them, then definitely their followers did, and there's just a whole level of interest there as well.
Yeah, and the continuation, like
that part gets interesting to me. I mean, 1997 was the last mass suicide, and that was 2 years after.
I just think people, when you believe something like that, it's really hard to let go of it, I guess.
Well, especially if you're now sunk into it financially and family-wise, and you've had to cut ties, like it becomes who you are.
I mean, obviously it was that long ago. You've been born into it. There's a lot of people who have probably been born there.
Well, and I think like there is a case to be made, maybe not for Jaret, but definitely for DeMambro. He probably really does believe in at least some of it, because he's been in he had been at that point, at the point of his death, he had been in some form of a Templar thing for 40 years. I mean, he probably believed it.
Well, and something else that I think that really, on top of the need for, there's people out there who feel this, like don't feel like they're on a path or they have a reason to live or whatever, and they need that. I also think like they talk about a lot in that Holy Hell documentary, the community that cults have, that small tight-knit community of people, is just something you don't have as an adult in normal, in
very hard
general.
To replace,
you just don't get it. And so that's an interesting part of it too, is the idea that these people like in the documentary, and I'm sure in this situation, like they lived on one giant plot of land together, and you work together and you farm together and you do everything as this community, and you have these people that you gain these like ridiculous bonds with. It's really interesting. It's and it's just like,
well, and it's a half step from like Mennonites and Amish people too. Like, I think that's the thing that's
having
like
that community. Yeah, for sure.
Like it's just one of those things where like even the worst things in the world tap into, things that are generally considered good.
And that's how they do it. Like that's how people who, it's really interesting to me because I just don't have that. I definitely don't have that trait of like charisma and being able to just pinpoint the weakness in human beings. I can't do that. So the fact that anyone can is super interesting to me because I don't understand it. But that they do that. They bring in all this good and good and good to layer over the bad so that you can overlook the bad. Because I'm sure these people who have been a part of this community for so long, and then all of a sudden this, the guy's saying, oh, we must die in order to have this.
Well, and
can overlook that
go
because
with us.
of
like we're your family, we're your community. Just follow us. We're going to go.
And another thing is they have nothing else. Like if you walk away, You're alone. You have nowhere to live. You don't have a job. You don't have anything. And so,
or take the same flyer that everyone else around you is taking, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and then
for sure.
specifically with this one, and you don't really have the option because we're going to bag you and shoot you anyway. So.
Well, and also just the idea of like, what if you really believe it?
Yeah.
You know, on
well,
top
I mean,
of,
the people that injected the poison in their veins, like that
had
was
to have, yeah.
Yeah. That was,
and I mean, so it's like on top of the community and the need to have someone to follow and the all of that, or need a purpose and all that kind of stuff, add the fact that there's a chance you actually believe in it.
So let's take a break for an ad. This week it's things I found online. They're very, very good. And they actually promoted us, I think, last week. So make sure you check them out. And yeah, listen to their ad. They'll explain it better than I can.
In a world where digital content barrels towards us at relentless breakneck speeds, where posts and memes and tweets and snaps rain down a punishing assault of attention-grabbing data, 3 heroic podcasters with a strong background in broadcast media are taking on the internet. Each week, we break down the trends, technology, and connections that are transforming our lives. We are Things I Found Online.
Available wherever you get your podcasts.
So I want to take a moment to talk about Podcoin. It's a new app that's out there that actually pays you to listen to podcasts, which, considering you're listening to our podcast, I would think maybe you're interested in this. For every 10 minutes that you listen to it, you're going to get something called a Podcoin, which you can use to rack up gift cards or stuff for charity. So like we do calories for dogs, or like dog food, as Rachel so adamantly wants me to call it, but they count it in calories. And so dadgummit, we've donated like 9,000 calories to pups. It's pretty great. So no other podcast app lets you do that. So check it out. Podcoin, use our promo code SKEP, SKEP, all caps, no spaces, and you'll get 300 free Podcoins for your session with Podcoin.
Okay, so today I am talking about the Bunyip. I don't think we've talked about a cryptid in a while. I think the last one was Bigfoot, right?
Oh, that can't be true.
I think so. I don't think we've talked about anything since then.
Really?
Yeah.
We're failures.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the last cryptid we talked about.
Wow. Okay. Well, we suck. Sorry.
Yeah, especially if you're like, man, I don't care about anything else people are talking about.
Then,
all I care about is cryptids.
They haven't logged in like 2.5 months.
5 episodes out of these 40, almost 40. So my sources are the Thought Catalog, Folklore Thursday, Paranormal Encyclopedia, and Telegraph. So the Bunyip is a mythological creature from Australian Aboriginal mythology. So the word Bunyip has kind of changed over time, but the Bunyip became...
The Yowie?
What?
Is it the Yowie?
No, that's not a thing.
No, the Yowie is.
Well, it's not a thing I talk about.
Wait, is it Bigfoot?
No.
What'd you just say?
Bunyip.
Yeah, but like, what type of animal is it?
I haven't said that yet.
Oh, okay. Well, the Yowie is their Bigfoot. That's why I said it.
You're getting ahead of yourself. So the word Bunyip, the meaning of that word has changed over time. But back in the 1800s, which is when this creature came about, it meant devil or evil spirit.
Oh, snap.
But closer, in about the 1950s, it changed to more of like pretender or imposter.
Oh, like like Loki?
Yeah, because Bunyip is an Aboriginal word. So it's just kind of like adjusted over time. So there's a bunch of different descriptions of this thing, and none of them are anywhere near the same. But the biggest one, or the one most talked about, is... It's described as, quote, being between 4 to 6 feet long with a shaggy black or brown coat. According to reports, these bunyips have round heads resembling a bulldog, prominent ears, no tail, and whiskers like a seal or otter. The long-necked variety, which is a different version. So that's one version. The other version is a long neck, is allegedly between 5 to 15 feet long and is said to have black or brown fur, large ears, small tusks, a head like a horse or emu, an elongated maned neck about 3 feet long and with many folds of skin and a horse-like tail.
That is so specific.
It
and
is
different from anything.
But also there has been other times people have described it as looking like a starfish.
Okay. First of all, I've officially never heard of this thing.
And others as an alligator.
Okay, so it's anything that you can't recognize?
It's just a creepy, weird animal.
All right.
They also...
Starfish? 15 feet long?
I think what they mean is like the head looks like a starfish.
Oh. Or a pug?
No, bulldog.
Oh, bulldog.
Mm-hmm. Or an emu. Or an alligator.
That's damn near 80% of the freaking world.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's just things that anytime the people went up to the water and saw a weird thing, they're like, oh, bunyip.
All right.
Well, also, there's lots of different groups. So I'm sure from each group, they call it a different thing. Or they call it the same thing, but it's something, you know what I mean? It is also believed that the bunyip has supernatural abilities. It can change water levels, kill victims just with its roar, and hypnotize humans to be its slave. Not sure how. No one described that, but it can. The bunyip has been said to lurk in swamps, riverbeds, creeks, and water holes. So it's a water animal, but it swims in the water with all 4 feet. But when it gets out of the water, it stands upright, according to like some of these things. It is known to prey upon children and livestock when they got too close to the water, as well as women and children in the night. Also, although it has large teeth, like each description talks about large teeth, because would it be an evil animal if it didn't? But it is known for hugging its victims to death. So there are two different ideas of what he is and why he does what he does. And some believe that he's just a bloodthirsty murderer who's just hungry. But there have also been some that believe he is a punisher sent to Earth to bring justice to anyone who commits evil acts, also to protect the wildlife.
I definitely like the second story better.
Right. I just want to know, like, what have children done?
What have children done? You've hung out with children.
Kids are rough. I don't know if evil would be the right word.
Depends on the child.
Possibly aggressive.
Definitely aggressive.
Irritating. A little rude.
Supernatural entity to bring justice upon them. Check.
Just look around the world and just be like, what are those small things? And why are they so unpleasant?
Right. We need to send a bunyip. Which one, the starfish or the bulldog? Both.
You just hear like the mom, can you please come over here? No, I don't want to. And the bunyip's like, that thing.
That one.
That one is the evil one. So in 1851, a newspaper reported that a Aboriginal man had been killed by a bunyip, and someone actually speared and killed one. And they like put an outline of its body on the ground. They said that it was
in 1851.
Yes.
It was an old newspaper, man.
Yes.
Okay.
And they said that it was 11 paces long and 4 paces wide.
Jeez.
I don't know what paces are.
A pace.
Like a footstep?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a foot?
Now your average pace is a little shorter than a yard.
You're losing me now. I don't know what a yard is.
What was it? 11 paces you said?
Mm-hmm.
That's about 22 feet.
22 feet?
Yeah.
Good night.
That's like the, in case you use the metric system, which you should, it's about 7 meters.
You should not.
Or the length of like a taxi cab or old police car.
Yeah, that 7 meters thing means nothing to me. 22 feet, on the other hand.
A meter's 39 inches.
See, you still have to make it into...
A little more than 3 feet.
All right.
3 inches more than 3 feet.
Anyways, so this spot was seen as like holy, and the Aboriginal people would visit every year, where they had outlined the body. And of course, over time, it disappeared. It's no longer there because that was 1851. There have also been some fossils discovered around that area that are unexplained, that some believe could be the bunyip. It was said to resemble a walrus or hippo, which again, walrus or hippo, those are very different animals.
I initially thought walrus, though, when I heard it, so. Or maybe it's just an Australian walrus.
How is it a walrus?
I mean, it's huge, and walruses are massive. It has tusks sometimes.
But only when it has a long neck and a horse face, and that is not a walrus.
Yeah, Jiminy Christmas. I can't even keep all that straight. Yeah, okay, who knows? I mean, damn.
And then in 1933, a man named Charles Fenner basically said that he believed the Bunyip was just a seal that had ended up in the river. I guess they can
Probably.
travel.
Sure. Yeah.
That far. There are also some that actually believe the Bunyip is a prehistoric marsupial called the Diprotodon australis, which was supposed to go extinct 46,000 years ago.
That's actually not that long, though. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe he's just there's just a few sticking around.
Yeah, I mean, we just found something that was supposedly gone for 23 million years, and we just found it.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so that's the Bunyip.
Huh. Cool. What's the marsupial, though? What's it look like?
What a good question. Let's find out. This looks like a bear.
Let me see.
Oh, it does have... It's like a beaver bear.
It looks like a giant capybara.
But the face, I guess, could kind of...
Yeah, no, that definitely is probably it.
I don't know. Unless it's the starfish face.
Well, then that's a whole other...
Or the alligator face.
Yeah, whole other thing.
Or the horse face. Or emu face, which, by the way, horse or emu, those are not interchangeable. The second description said a head like a horse or emu. Those two are the same.
Yeah.
That's not the same as saying horse or donkey.
As though they're interchangeable. Yeah.
They're very different.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I think it's probably that thing, though. Whatever it was.
I think it could have been a million things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by your description, yes, definitely.
Not my description.
Well, you know what I mean.
The internet's description.
All right. So this was another episode of Skeptical Skeptics, which had a subject we've never talked about and a subject that we grossly have ignored for the past 2 months badly.
And let us know if you want us to keep talking about cults, or if you're
that was lame.
That does not cover your thing.
Let us know. Although knowing you people, yeah, you're probably into it. So
if you're anything like me.
Yeah. Which I think at this point, yeah, I mean, it's been 39 episodes. What are you doing if you're not? Geez, figure it out. Okay, yeah. So thanks for the good week. As always, we are going to do our next mini-sode here towards the end of the week, more than likely. And then it'll be...
special.
The Q&A and a special all at the same time. So it'll be special followed by the Q&A episode.
Which we still don't know what the special is going to be about.
No, yeah, we haven't decided. We have a couple topics, but we don't want to throw them out there because then it'll ruin subsequent specials. So,
well, and also if we don't want to talk about it yet, and everyone's like, you should talk about that one.
Yeah, but we're not ready.
No.
Yeah, so next week will be a special. How exciting is that? We're gonna record for 3 dang hours. Oh, last piece of news. We're going ghost hunting this weekend.
Ugh.
Finally paying it off. 40 episodes later, Rachel has decided she's going to man up and do...
No, Rachel has been forced into... Rachel's not decided anything.
Well, we bought a camera, so...
Right, which is me being forced into stuff.
Also, here's the deal. I think me and Rachel just doing it would be lame. Also, Rachel's a scaredy cat, so that's not ideal. So we're bringing my dad and my mom. Now, you may think that that's a questionable choice, and I agree with you, but the reason why is because there is comedy gold layered in with bringing in my father and my mother, because my dad is assuredly going to fall asleep at some point.
And be the biggest skeptic on the planet.
Yeah, nothing will be...
And completely unaffected by anything. Even if there was the most clear evidence of something happening, he'd be like, huh,
weird. And my mom, on the flip side, is an old Asian woman, and whatever stereotype you're coming up with, that's her. And
she's terrified of literally everything.
Those people, and I am talking about an old guy with narcolepsy at this point.
Oh, for sure.
And old Asian stereotypical woman are not ghost hunting anywhere on YouTube. So that's only the kind of content you're going to get from us and here. So
I just like that his mom will make me look like less of a crazy person.
Yes. But anyway, so we're probably going to be the people behind the camera, a little bit in front of it. I will definitely be doing most of the camera work. But it should be a good time. And you'll definitely hear me talking a lot. Eventually, we'll probably get 2 cameras and then we'll be able to do it that way. But we're going to see how this goes. Now, don't get too excited about when that may come out, because I have not video edited since college, and this will probably take me a while to get my groove. So you may not see this video for a month, but get hyped, everybody.
Or just tell us how terrible of an idea it is and that we should just stay home in the safety of our beds.
No, I was already challenged to that by the 4 people in the fantasy league were like, if you lose, you got to do that ghost hunt. And I was like, we're already doing it. So they're pumped.
That's not even a punishment for you.
No, I said it's not.
It's
that's
me.
That's why I told them to get me another one. But anyway, have a good week, everybody.
Bye. Chewing on something wood.
Cut. Hey, Winnie. Quit. Winnie. Come here, baby. Winnie, baby. Stop.
Our little Winnebago.
Winnebago. Just go with your mom. You cute mother. And a holy member, he said that he was actually,
All right.
why are the words failing me? Said would mostly be done by volcanoes, which is interesting because our biggest threat to extinction
It's volcanoes, isn't
it's
it?
a super volcano,
Yeah.
under Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still the biggest, but it's a huge threat.
There's a book series about it
I bet.
where that happens and it's a YA, but like an apocalyptic.
Yeah.
I started reading it.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, continue.
No, you just can't scratch while talking. You can scratch if I'm talking.
Oh, sorry,
But you
I didn't
can't do
think
both.
about it.
No, you're good. I liked the subject. You just can't do that.